Welcome everyone to the first ever show of The Rundown. I'm David Brown.
And I'm Kawana Stanley. Among the longest and deepest rivers in Florida, Wakulla Springs attracts thousands of visitors each year.
However, this river may be facing water shortages.
Statistics show that Florida is losing tons of water every 30 minutes.
We took an in-depth look at how Floridians are solving this issue.
Water, water everywhere. Or is there? In recent years, the state of Florida has experienced water shortages in heavily populated regions like Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties. But these shortages are just a prelude to what could potentially happen in the Sunshine State. A statewide water shortage is predicted to occur in Florida by the year 2050.
I mean, if it's on the track right now that it's going, well, there's no telling if there's even going to be any water out here in the future, unless we do something about it and try to help protect it.
Even though most of Florida's population resides in the central and southernmost parts of the state, the majority of the fresh water supply is found in the northern cities. While this does create a slight problem, it's the least of Florida's worries. The water supply is decreasing due to overusage and a lack of conservation efforts. Florida draws most of its water from the Floridan aquifer system, but with freshwater levels getting lower and lower, salt water from the ocean flows into wells and other sources of fresh water, contaminating the water. Salt water mixing with fresh water isn't always a bad thing in Florida, though. In some places, it's necessary. In Apalachicola Bay, seafood workers and fishermen rely on a healthy mix of fresh and salt water so that the oysters that fuel their economy can thrive. But the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, Flint water war threatens the livelihood of these men and women. Florida Governor Rick Scott has recently filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia after a 2-decade battle for water between the two states and Alabama. Fresh water flow beginning near the Florida-Georgia state line has been restricted, causing dangerously high salinity levels in Apalachicola Bay. Scott says that he's filing the suit after years of broken promises and failed negotiations. Although efforts are being made by lawmakers across the state of Florida to conserve water for future generations, many residents don't consider water a resource like they should.
Hopefully someone will bring awareness to this and we can get this under control so that the next generation won't be struggling with a water shortage.
Would you say that you consider your water usage on a regular basis?
No.
No. Kind of
Just do what I need, yeah.
I mean, I think one of the biggest problems is, things like plastic, like Gatorade bottles and water bottles. If water gets stuck in that water's not going to recirculate, and go back into our atmosphere and in the air. It's going to stay, and the more that happens, that does accumulate, and that will create a problem down the line.
The Florida Department of Agriculture has a number of water-saving programs in place to make water usage in the state of Florida more efficient. The Office of Water Policy has created the Best Management Practices program, as well as several other water-conserving initiatives.
Essentially, the goal is to help producers be as efficient as they can be and minimize impacts to the water resources. And so those practices need to be both research-based, they need to be economically and technically feasible. The definition of a best management practice is that they are both economically and technically feasible for producers to implement.
The state of Florida must do what it can to preserve its water. Contrary to the belief of many Floridians, the supply of fresh water isn't a never-ending one, and what is left must be protected. I'm Misha Compare reporting.
Okay, the first show of The Rundown is over.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at stories that we thought, and hopefully you thought, were interesting.
So, for The Rundown, I'm Kawana Stanley.
And I'm David Brown. Good night.
Good night.